Tepu, this is Kasank Ma Keperu for Project Illuminated, and today I have a special video for you. I actually came across an article on Mother Nature Network, and it's titled "Parallel Worlds Exist and Interact with Our World," says physicists. I read the article. It's very interesting. If you get an opportunity, go to the website and check it out. In the middle of the article, there is a video. Let me see if I can pull the video up. Which actually explains the three theories on parallel universes and how they interact with our universe or our world. And the scientists say that they interact on a quantum level. So I don't buy into that completely. But I think the video, as you'll see here, is really interesting because it does go over the three types of theories that quantum physicists have about the multiverse theory. So I want you to watch this video. And I'm going to give you more in-depth information about how these parallel universes interact with our universe, because that's a big component that's missing from this video. But it is a good video, and it does give you the basis of understanding the three theories of the multiverse. All right, so let me just play this for you, and we'll get started.
Everyone loves the idea of parallel universes. Maybe it's the appeal of an ideal world where you have second chances and things turn out differently. An alternate reality where you do get into Hogwarts and the Star Wars prequels aren't made, and you finally plug in your asymmetric computer cord correctly on the first try. But is there really a place in science for such wistful speculation? I mean, if the universe is everything that there is, you can't have two versions of it, right? Otherwise, the pair would really be everything, and what you started off calling the universe wasn't. The problem here is terminology. Physicists speaking informally often say universe when they really mean observable universe. That is, the part of the whole universe that we've so far been able to see. And it's perfectly fine to talk about multiple different observable universes. For example, an alien near the edge of our observable universe will see parts of the whole universe that we can't yet see, because the light hasn't had time to reach us yet. But that's a well-understood question and not what physicists normally talk about when they discuss multiple observable universes, or multiverses. So let's cut to the chase. In physics, the word multiverse normally refers to one of three distinct and largely unrelated proposed physical models for the universe, none of which has been tested or confirmed by experiment, by the way. The three multiverse models are Type 1, bubble universes or baby black hole universes. This is the most straightforward kind of multiverse. The basic idea is that perhaps there are other parts of the universe which are so far away that we will never see them, or are inside black holes, so similarly we will never see them. This kind of model was created as an attempt to explain why our universe is so good at making stars and galaxies and black holes and life. As the argument goes, if each of these separate mutually unseeable bubbles in the universe had slightly different laws of physics, then by definition we could only exist in one that had the right physical laws to allow us to exist. Like, we have to live in a universe where the Earth could form, because if the Earth couldn't form, then we couldn't be here. If you're not convinced by this logic, don't worry too much. There's not yet any experimental evidence for this kind of multiverse. Multiverse Type 2. Membranes and extra dimensions. Inspired in part by the inability of the mathematics of string theory to predict the right number of dimensions for the universe we observe, string theorists proposed the idea that perhaps what we think of as our universe is actually just a three-dimensional surface embedded within a larger super-universe with 9 spatial dimensions. Kind of like how each page of a newspaper is its own two-dimensional surface embedded within our three-dimensional world. And of course, if space had 9 dimensions rather than 3, there'd be plenty of space for other three-dimensional surfaces that appeared like ours to be universes in their own right, but, like the pages of a newspaper, were actually part of a bigger whole. These kinds of surfaces are called membranes, or branes for short, and as a reminder, there is not yet any experimental evidence for this kind of multiverse. Multiverse Type 3, the many worlds picture of quantum mechanics. Surprisingly, physicists still don't fully understand how the collapse of the wave function in quantum mechanics happens, and the many worlds hypothesis makes an attempt at explanation by proposing that every possible alternate timeline for the universe is real, and they all happen in an ever larger, ever-branching way. Like a universal choose-your-own-adventure where every possible story happens. If this were the case, we might not realize it because we'd be stuck living out just one of the infinitely many possible lives available to us. In some ways, Many Worlds is similar to the bubble multiverse model by proposing maybe anything that can happen does, and we just happen to exist in a series of happenings that were necessary for us to exist. If you're still not convinced by this logic, don't worry, there is not yet any experimental evidence for this kind of multiverse. Any world's interpretation might be tested fairly soon, since experimentalists are becoming increasingly able to manipulate and control ever larger quantum mechanical systems in their labs, systems that approach the line between the quantum realm and our everyday experience. So as always, we must remember that physics is science, not philosophy, and in our attempts to explain the universe that we observe, we have to make claims that can in principle be tested, and then test them.
So, I think that was very interesting. Two ideas that come directly out of the conspiracy theory camps, the New Age movement, the spiritualist movement. The first idea is that you are a co-creator and you are creating everything around you. And this again comes from quantum mechanics, which tells us that, reality doesn't exist apart from the observer. So that when you look at something, if we're looking at a subatomic particle, it changes in the relation to us observing it. So meaning your belief system dictates how the particle reacts, which is true. All right. But the problem that I'm having with that is that you are saying, and I'm talking about the New Age movement, the spiritualists, that you're creating something. And you're not creating anything, because for you to do that, you're saying that God is incomplete. But God is all that there is and all that there can be. So you can't create something that's already complete. Do you see what I'm saying? So the other idea that's come out of that movement, and people like David Icke, and I love David Icke, I have nothing against him, talk about there is the matrix, the energy field, where it's just pure information. This comes from the singularity of the black hole, where we understand that if you are sucked into a black hole, you become spaghettified, and the information of who and what you are still exists at the I think it's the singularity. But so you have this information field, which let's say it's the matrix, and out of an information field, you pull from that field to create the reality around you. And the field is just pure information and pure potential or infinite possibility, in other words. So this is infinite possibilities of infinite things can happen. And I also believe that that's incorrect as well. And I'll tell you why, again, because you're still going back to creating something. And you can't create something when something's already complete, which is God, again, is complete. Source is complete. You can't add or subtract from source. All right. So what's happening here? So this is what the idea of us interacting or having a role in how the world we see around us, which is Maya, a hologram or an illusion, that we are creating this reality as we go along, just like in a video game where it's pixelated, and every time you turn left or right, the pixels form and create the next chapter or the next image. So that's a lot of what the theory is out there, and to a degree that's kind of correct, but not. So here's what's really going on. All right, what we're looking at is source net to create everything that can be, everything that exists already, everything that can exist already exists. I want you to understand that. All right, so you can't create anything new. Now, what is going on is that we have existence, and existence exists with infinite possibilities of things that already exist. So there's a version of you that exists as a king. There's a version of you that exists as a hobo. There's a version of you that exists as the president of the United States or the president of a galactic empire. Let's say that, for example. It already exists, and it's already going on in its own space-time continuum. Now, we here on this reality, this vibrational fourth dimension reality, when we are observing things and we have a belief system, which I call the meta frame or the meta belief, when we have that belief system and we focus on something, an intention, it pulls out of that, what we call is the multiverse. It pulls out of that multiverse, or that we can call it another dimension if you want, pulls out of that other dimension and brings it to this fourth dimensional reality. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is that we have a picture that's not complete. It's a big, gigantic puzzle that changes this image. The puzzle can be an elephant, it can be a giraffe, it could be a house, it could be a plane, it could be anything. But it will constantly change according to your belief system in the minute you focus on something. So if you have a belief system which says that all people are bad, then automatically it pulls from this other reality and brings into this reality bad people. That's what's going on. So you have all of these other dimensions or alternate universes. I don't want to use dimensions. Alternate universes that are constantly interacting with this universe depending on your belief system. So we're constantly pulling and pushing away things to form the pieces of the puzzle to create a different picture. Now, I'm hoping this makes sense because it gets very deep and involved. So in other words, we're looking at reality, and we're not saying that what we're essentially saying is reality is not objective. It's not fixed. It's constantly changing. It's dynamic. It changes according to your thoughts and beliefs, and those thoughts and beliefs pull from other alternate universes and brings those individual components and pieces into this universe. All right, so say, for example, and I'm going to give you just a very mundane example, so hopefully this will make this more concrete for you. All right, the recent rash of police brutality. All right, if the masses of people, which I call the MCA, the mass consensus agreement, believes that there is such a thing as police brutality, what happens then is we pull from that other universe, because we now have that belief system which has us vibrating at a certain wavelength, to where we're pulling from that other universe, bringing it into this universe, and we're matching vibrational frequency so that we can see now a police force that commits these atrocities. Does this make sense? So in other words, for us to pull out of one universe, bring it into this universe or dimension, into this dimension, we have to vibrate at a certain level so that we can actually see it. So we can say we're bringing it here, or what it really is, we're just vibrating to the level of where we can visibly see it. We're not actually bringing it here, because it already exists in the same space-time continuum. It already exists where you are at right now. Everything is happening right here, and it's not happening in another part of the universe, or it's happening right here simultaneously. You're just vibrating at a different wavelength so that you can see it. But remember, these are pieces of a puzzle. So we're not bringing in an entire new universe, a new reality. We're bringing components of different reality that exist in a different level of reality to bring it here. And once it doesn't, at a certain point, if it doesn't serve a purpose, or doesn't serve a purpose for us anymore, then it dissipates and goes back to where it was before. So I've always said that your partner, you may be involved in a relationship and you say, my partner has changed. She's not the same person she was before, or he's a different man now. And that's actually true, because you vibrated to a frequency now that calls forth a different person into your reality. So that person actually is different, and that person will change again depending on your belief system or how you change and adapt. And you vibrate and change and go through different alternative or different multiverses. So that's the component that's missing. I hope I didn't get too deep and convoluted there, but I'm trying to explain a very complex subject matter, which is not easy, but understanding that the fact that you are the master magician, you are constantly putting together a new reality for yourself. You're not creating anything, though we can use that term to facilitate the conversation. The reality is that you don't create anything, you don't manifest anything, you merely are, for lack of a better term, shifting things from one vibrational level to a different vibrational level so it can become visible for you to see and interact with. But keep in mind, it's all a hologram, it's an illusion, it's Maya, it's not real, it's only there to facilitate your getting the experience. And that's what God wants, is the experience, to understand itself and its infinite potential and power. So this is Kasak Keparu for Project Illuminated, and that's all for now.